previously met under exception C, in closed session under exception C1, C10, and C21. I'd like to call to order the June 8th, 2021 Waukegan Public School Board of Education meeting. If I can have a roll call, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Here.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Here.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Present.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Here.
Mr. Ewing?
Here, we have all board members present. I would now like a motion to go back into open session. Second. Motion by Ms. Wozniak. The second was from Ms. Hannah. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes, we are now in open session. Mr. McBride, if you'd be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
Thank you for that. There are no special recognitions this evening, but I do just want to shout out, we had, it's a lot to celebrate, so maybe I'll save that for board member time for the sake of time. With that, we're going to move down to the approval of the minutes. All right, so we have approval of the minutes of the open session, item 7A, meeting of March 30th, 2021. Motion by Mr. Riddle,
Second.
second by Ms. Leguizamo. Any comments, questions, or corrections for the minutes? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes, minutes are approved. So now we are going to go to item 7B, approval of the minutes of the open session meeting of May 25th, 2021. Do we have a motion to approve?
Mr. Riddle, I so move that we approve the minutes of May 25th as presented.
Motion by Mr. Riddle,
Second.
second by Mr. McBride. Any comments, questions, corrections to the minutes? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Minutes. The second minute.
Okay. Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes, minutes are approved for May 25th, 2021. All right, we've now come to the time in our meeting for our public comment. This is an opportunity for the board to hear from the public. When your name is called, please walk to the microphone. I do ask that you state your name. Just a reminder, speakers are given 3 minutes. If you need translation services will be provided to you, and you will receive 6 minutes to allow for translation. We do ask that you do not mention staff or student names in your remarks. The first name on the list I have as Chester. And so Chester, once you get to the microphone, if you would be so kind as to state your first and last name.
Hi, is this the Democratic headquarters? Oh, okay. Now, I was wondering, you're doing phonics and you're doing, all for the Spanish, but what about the blacks and white? Don't they have a chance to learn too?
All right, thank you, Chester. Next name on the list is Jose Catalan. And Mr. Catalan, I'm sorry, just before you speak, they're going to sanitize the microphone.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jose Catalan. I am here on behalf of Beacon Place Non-for-Profit. First off, I wanted to give everybody at District 60 a big thank you for allowing us to use your box trucks in the past. Because of your generosity, we were able to deliver more than 100,000 pounds of food to families in Southeast Waukegan last year. And this summer, we are starting our summer programming again. As in past summers, we'll be participating in the Northern Illinois Food Bank's Backpack Food Program, and we're hoping to use the truck again on Thursday mornings for 7 weeks in order to pick up the food from the Park City warehouse and deliver it to Beacon Place. We have a couple of volunteers who are helping us, who have helped us in the past years, and they'll be the same ones picking up your truck and making the deliveries. So please, if you could let us know if your truck is available for use again this year, we'd really appreciate it, and we want to thank you again for all of your support in the past.
Thank you. All right, next name on the list is Diana Cerna. Sorry, Ms. Cerna, before you start speaking, can we get 6 minutes up on the clock?
Good afternoon. I have a video for a mom from the school program, the preschool program, but I don't want to do the traduction, simultaneous traduction, because I don't want to interrupt the video, so maybe the audio is going to be there, so maybe later someone can translate it to you. It's okay? Okay. And this is a mother for a preschool program. ¿Es una madre del programa escolar de educación bilingüe? ¿Hello? ¿Daisy? Sí. Hola Daisy, soy Diana Cerna, pues tú eres una madre del programa escolar de educación bilingüe. Tienes 3 hijos, ¿no? Sí, ya una salió el año pasado y entró una este año, que acaba de terminar, y está uno para entrar este año que viene también. Cuentes un poquito de tu experiencia precisamente con la coordinadora Krisha Kirkwood Rasul. Como que ella es un poquito déspota al tratarse de los hispanos, como que sí, de parte de ella está siendo bastante imparcial, cosa que no es apta para alguien que es coordinador de un programa que es bilingüe. Y como yo le dije a esta señora Crisia hoy que me hizo la entrevista para el pequeñín que me va a entrar, porque ella me dijo, su niño me dijo, con una actitud bastante déspota igual, no como los demás que estaban dentro de la entrevista, pero su actitud fue bastante, ¿cómo diré? No era la mejor para ser una coordinadora. El día de la entrega de la sacana, que le entregaron con materiales educativos, ese día pues ella muy amable, muy sonriente allí con la persona del frente, que era afroamericano, muy sonriente, muy aquí, muy así, muy amigable. Y lo que me pareció medio, por eso digo, a mí me pareció como una actitud medio extraña, medio déspota, antipática, por decirlo, cuando ella a mí solamente me hizo con el dedo, muévete para el frente, porque yo era hispana o guaso, porque no me sonrió siquiera una sonrisa o ay, vete hasta enfrente con la mano, pero no solo con el dedo, o sea, es diferente la actitud de que sí, ok, a mí los hispanos con las personas que hablan español, pero la actitud es lo que cuenta para tú dirigirte hacia alguien. Primero la sonrisa, el saludo cordial, para demostrar que tú tienes trato igual para todas las personas. Los niños tienen los mismos derechos, no solo por el hecho de que ellos son ciudadanos americanos, sino que por el hecho de que ellos son niños y están en un país.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Cerna, if we can pause the tape as well as the clock.
Muchísimas gracias por compartirla.
So the idea and the concept is to give equal time in both English and Spanish. So I don't know if you were able to capture any of that information to be able to translate
I was
it.
only able to capture bits and pieces, so I wouldn't be able to provide an accurate interpretation of that.
All right, and so Ms. Cerna, if you would like to send that to the board, we can get it interpreted, Superintendent. But thank you. So I do apologize if you want to translate. I don't know if she understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Serna. This concludes our public comment. Next item on our list is our consent agenda. So just as a reminder, the consent agenda was established under the previous board president, Mr. Rodriguez, and continued by me as a way to expedite the work of the board. Typically under the consent agenda, you will see things that should be considered non-controversial and or previously discussed. Any board member can request that any information be voted on separately for any reason. Also, we made sure that when things are on the consent agenda at a request of the Board of Education, it also includes the attachments so that the community is 100% aware of what is happening. With that, we have our consent agenda as presented. Do we have a motion to approve? Or before we go with there, is there anybody who would like to vote on any item separately? With that, do we have a motion to approve item 9, A through F?
I motion.
Motion by Ms. Gonzalez, the second was Mr. McBride. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Liquidamo,
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes. All right, items approved, just to read those off for the record. Item 9A, engagement of legal counsel dual class action litigation. 9B, approval of bid masonry restoration at North Elementary School, Abbott Middle School, Washington Elementary School, Whittier Elementary School, Greenwood Elementary School, Webster Middle School, and Hyde Park Elementary School. Item 9C, approval of bid for window replacement of Glenwood, Oakdale, McCall, Clark, and Greenwood, ceilings and flooring only. Item 9D, approval of bid for window replacement of Glenwood, Oakdale, McCall, Clark, and Greenwood, windows only. 9E, approval of the bid for Glenwood Elementary School, H.R. McCall Elementary School, Little Fort Elementary School, roofing removal and replacement. And 9F, approval of bid for the 2021 renovations at 8 schools, but actually 7 schools as is described in the narrative and presented for the public. All right, next up, we have item 10A, under purchases and contracts, approval of ratified contract extension for school year 2021, 2020, and 2022-2023 between the Board of Education, Waukegan Unit School District 60, and the Waukegan Council of Lake County Federation. I think that should be Federation of Teachers, Local 504, IFT, AFT/AFL, CIO.
It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the extended collective bargaining agreement with the Waukegan Teachers Council as ratified by the teachers, and to authorize the President and Secretary of the Board of Education to sign the agreement on behalf of Waukegan Community Unit School District Number 60 Board of Education.
Mr. Riddle, I so move that we approve the resolution or the motion as presented by the superintendent.
Motion by Mr. Riddle,
Second.
second by Ms. Wozniak. Any comments or questions on the motion?
I just hope that next time we go into negotiations, when we go into our next negotiations with our bargaining units, that there are board members that are included on the negotiating team, seeing how that the agreements are between the Board of Education and whatever bargaining unit there is.
Thank you for that, Ms. Hannah. Mr. Riddle?
Yes, I'd just like to thank the administration and the teachers union and teachers for agreeing to this extension. There's an awful lot of work to be done, especially during COVID, and I think they've done an excellent job in coming to an agreement here for this extension. So I'd like to thank them, all those involved in the negotiation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle. And I would echo that, is I think This was an opportunity for us to make sure that energy and efforts are put on reopening schools in the fall. But to Ms. Hannah's point, we will look at negotiations in what is 2 years. So this was a 2-year extension. All right, so with that, we had a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, item approved, motion carries. Item 11A, personnel for 6/8/21.
It is the recommendation that the Board of Education accept the administration's recommendation to approve the appointments, accept the retirements and resignations as found on schedules F959, L906, and G617.
Move that we accept the resolution as read, the motion as read by the superintendent.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, the second came from Ms. Wozniak. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Yes, I have comments. First, I would like to say thank you to specifically Dr. Kevin Brown, who will be leaving us at the end of this school year. We will miss him. He was very valuable in our teaching and learning with pre-K through 8th grade, and I just wish him well in his next endeavor. I know he'll do well. It's actually our loss. I also would like to say I want to thank Mr. Richard Hanna that he is retiring as of July 15th of this year, and he has been an intricate part in the maintenance department, and he's done many floors around the school district for offices and so forth. So we wish him well in his retirement. And there are a lot of retirements, but we have one. We want to thank Constance Cameron for her time in the district. Been here since 2007, and she will be leaving at the end of this school year as well. And there's others, but they are not due yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. So we have a roll call, we have a motion and a second.
Yeah, there's a couple others there, or at least one other one. I think, Ms. Hannah, maybe you missed Graciela Alba is also retiring. See
Oh,
her?
yeah, okay, you're right. Thank you, Mr. Riddle. And I would like to say thank you to Graciela Alba for her service to the district, as well as Daniel Metzing, who I hope I'm not mixing up their names. But just want to say thank you for all your service to the district, and good luck with your future endeavors.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McBride.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but you know, when we have retirees that stay in the district for a decade or so, I don't know, are we honoring them any kind of way, giving them a pen or something to show that we have appreciated them for their long endurance for hanging around and being of service to our children.
Yes, we do. And in previous years, we would have our retirement dinner, but due to COVID, we did not have the retirement dinner. However, I did do a video, and I know the superintendent has plans to celebrate our retirees for the 2021 school year.
So I guess I was just suggesting, you know, You know, sometimes just the little things mean a lot. You don't necessarily have to go all out, but I mean, I just think there should be something in place for 10 years or 20 years as well as 30. That, you know, I know there's always been, when I stayed at the city 30 years, every 10 years, 20 years of my 30 years, I was always given something for my appreciation during the course of the time that I was there. So I'm thinking maybe we may be able to come up with something monumental for our staff when they leave.
Thank you, Mr. McBride.
I think Tom, didn't we do that for our 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20-year employees? Yeah, there was something that we gave at every, that through different time length.
Thank you, Superintendent, if you'd be so kind as to look at what we currently do and report that back to the Board of Education.
Will do.
Thank you.
Mr. Rickrell, please note that.
With that, I'd like a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak, Ms. Liquidamo,
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, item approved, motion carries. We, was there a administrator you wanted to recognize? Yes, administrative appointments. Go ahead, Mr. Superintendent.
See that. At this time, I'd like to introduce Karen Frank, who will now be our new professional development coordinator. Is Ms. Frank with us this evening? She previously served as the academic chair of assessment and building logistics. Her salary will be $108,050. Congratulations, Mrs. Frank.
Thank you, Superintendent. We do not have any grants and donations this evening. We're going down to other 13A, approval of Beacon Place request for use of district truck.
It is a recommendation that the Board of Education authorizes superintendent to approve the use of a district truck to transport backpacks of food from the local food bank to Beacon Place for distribution to Waukegan and North Chicago students for 7 weeks during the summer of 2021, June 21st through August 6th, 2021. The district has provided this in-kind service for the past 8 years as the work of Beacon Place has supported district students and their families.
So move.
I second.
Motion by Ms. Hannah, second by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. McBride.
I watched Deacon Place always use an analogy, go from a cotton sack to a Cadillac. It was an old building down there on South Avenue in McAllister. And I watched them come up with the idea that there was families in the neighborhood that needed a little extra help. And they just started off with a little or nothing and with the renovation and taking that old building and then turning it to a Taj Mahal. And I watched them bring families in, teaching training, education, kids, helping them out with nutrition. And they when we talk about equity, that's a perfect example of down there, what they're doing down at Beacon Place. So I'm just happy to do everywhere I can to be some support because I seen it from the beginning to the end and where you all are at now. And keep up the good work.
And I'd like to say that I too have watched Beacon Place evolve to where it is right now. The building or the structure that they're in, it used to be called Castle Grayskull, and I watched it. And when they were first getting started, I brought to the board of the use of the truck for them. And ever since that first time that we approved the truck, we have not wavered from allowing Beacon Place to to have access to that for the benefit of the children and the community. And so I too, big supporter, and keep up the great work.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Sorry, just writing down my train of thoughts here. Yeah, I too have been watching the Beacon Place and have done great things, have grown so much. I'd like to ask for the board and our legal team to potentially create an agreement between Waukegan Public Schools and the Beacon Place for a multi-year contract agreement about the continual services and partnership that we have. This is so that they don't have to come to us each time that they're trying to use our parking lot, each time they're trying to use our bus services for our students, and a little bit more beyond, because you do a lot more than servicing our students. But I think this is something that we're creating a hurdle for an organization, and I'd like to try to talk about removing this hurdle so that there could just be smooth transitions and partnerships between our organizations.
Thank you for that, and we can discuss at an upcoming meeting, Ms. Leguizamo. Thank you to Beacon Place. I do know that Ms. Talbot over at Beacon Place has been very instrumental in working with the district, meeting with us in order to support students during remote learning, as well as has been instrumental in advocacy for quality, effective Wi-Fi throughout Waukegan. As we know, even though our students are returning to school, Wi-Fi is similar to a utility. Just like water, heat is very hard to engage in our current society without access to the internet. So I want to thank Beacon Place for their efforts in fighting for Wi-Fi and inviting the district to collaborate. Dr. Cuevas has been a part of that effort and that initiative, and so we appreciate that partnership. And I hope, along with myself and the other board members, that we will approve this request. So we have our motion, we have our second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes. Item approved, motion carries. All right, next up is 14A, ratification of the first processing of board bills for June 2021, manual check request payments and First Midwest insurance payments for the period of May 19, 2021 through June 1st, 2021.
It is the recommendation that the Board of Education ratify the 1st June 2021 processing of board bills, manual check request payments, and First Midwest insurance payments for the period of May 19, 2021 through June 1st, 2021. The accounts payable board May 19, 2021 through June 1st, 2021 payments total $847,841.98. The manual check request payments for the period of May 19, 2021 through June 1st, 2021 total $259,743.99. The First Midwest insurance payments for the period of May 19, 2021 through June 1st, 2021 payments total $0.
Motion by Ms. Hannah,
Second.
second by Mr. Riddle. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes. Item approved, motion carries. Next up, we are now at our student board member report.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great summer so far. I just want to quickly say thank you to Ms. Frank as well, because I know she was in charge of the AP testing and the SAT testing. And I know the behind the scenes work can be very tough sometimes, so I just want to say thank you to her. I guess she's not here today, but thank you, Ms. Frank. Today I just want to kind of go over, I guess, what I researched or what I looked into in regards to what I mentioned in the last board meeting, which is about the mental health goals that I'm aiming for. And these are things that, this is me assuming that, Waukegan isn't doing these things, and maybe can take these things and, possibly implement them. So one thing is, I would say it's a small thing, is that when we call for our attendance, students say, I'm sick, or religious holiday, or, they're attending a funeral, or et cetera. I think that another thing that could be mentioned for, for them being excused, whether that's calling the attendance office or emailing your counselor as well, is them saying, hey, I need a mental health day, or hey, I just need a day break. I think that would be very beneficial to students, for them to not think about just work and just kind of take the day off for themselves, and then come back next day fresh and, energized and ready to work. Another thing that I found is that I believe in 2018 it was published by the Washington Post, is that New York and Virginia were the first two states to pass laws that require mental health education, and that it would be integrated into the curriculum from kindergarten through 12th grade in New York and 9th grade to 10th grade in Virginia. So I know that those are just only two states, and I know we are just a district compared to a whole state, but I think that we can still do something in regards to that. And those some things are, this is, of course, I don't know if teachers are, but teachers being trained in mental health. They learn how to communicate with students. They can learn to identify, if they're going through something, see those red flags. Another thing is having check-ins during class or at the beginning of class. If students, if they even feel comfortable sharing how they're feeling to other students and the teachers, kind of like a group session for a quick 5 minutes. It lets other people know that, hey, I'm not in this alone. Other people are also going through this. And then, that can get their day started. It could be just their second period class. Doesn't have to be every single class they go through. Another thing is having virtual or in-person events for parents. I think parents, some do and some don't understand mental health, or they want to understand, but they don't know how, or they want to ask their child, but the child can't explain it. So, having kind of those events or having sessions for parents so they can listen and learn. So if they want to, or if they feel like they need to, help their child in any way. So they can understand what to do and what not to do. Whether their child is stressed because of school, if their child is going through something, anxiety, whatever it is. So I think that would be very, very beneficial, not only for students, but also parents. And then lastly, I don't know too much information about what Waukegan has done, but having a certified school psychologist, from my understanding, I know that we do have social workers to go to, or we can contact teachers and they can, link us to social workers. But I think having a full-time school psychologist during the school and even after school hours would be helpful. So people can go during their lunchtime, they can go before school starts, they can go after school. Talk to about their problems, or if they don't feel comfortable even talking to their counselor, and rather will talk to someone they know that is certified, and we'll actually be able to help them, give them tips, and even if they would just want to go there and do their work with in that one area. But those are just some things that I found that have been helpful to schools and districts, and even in states. But yeah, that's what I have to report for today. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's very important when we talk about the mental health for our students. So we look forward to working with you on that initiative, especially as we help our students transition back from COVID and know that there will be long-lasting mental health impacts because we were all impacted ourselves. And so we know that our adolescents were impacted as well. Yes, Mr. McBride.
I appreciate the idea of you having empathy for the students, because even in the real world,
yeah,
if somebody dies, employers are automatically given 2 days off to grieve. And our students are no different than employers, so to speak. And I appreciate it, and the idea you speaking about mental health, Shara's been talking about that ever since she's been on the board. We just haven't addressed the issue, but she's always talked about mental health, and you're right, there's a lot going on in the district in terms of mental health. I mean, I could probably give you a list of things that I've observed that I think that we should be really paying attention to, so you're on target with your thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Mr. McBride. Next up, we have our delegates report. Ms. Hannah.
I'm going to forego my delegates' time because I'm going to talk under new business, but I would like to just remind the board members that we are, if you have not gotten your slips into Maria for your choices of your classes, for the Triple I conference. She handed papers out today. Make sure you get those back to her so that you can get registered and get your appropriate tags for your classes. But other than that, I'll wait until.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Item 15D, Superintendent's report.
Yes, at this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Polk to please come up to the microphone.
Board President, board members, superintendent, and colleagues, community members, we released the ESSER 3 survey today. The superintendent sent a message out, and Nick Alajakis was so gracious to assist us in meeting this requirement. One of the requirements that we mentioned during Budget Workshop 1 is that we needed to solicit input from all constituents. And so this is our second attempt in doing that. The first was to introduce the concept during Budget Workshop 1, and then this survey, and we're also going to revisit that during Budget Workshop 2 and Budget Workshop 3. The deadline for submissions is June the 25th. And so we ask that all who are interested in providing input to the district so that we can see what your concerns are and infuse that in the plan that the district has to spend the ESSER funds. We've identified that the district so far proposed is to get about $43 million, of which 20% has to be spent on learning loss, and the other 80% can be spent on anything related to COVID. We've made recommendations to the Board of Education as well as the community that we propose that we would do what most districts across the country is doing, and that is that the 80% would be spent on something similar to facility upgrades like HVAC, roof replacement, abatement, and those type things. And so if there are any questions related to that, yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I am really not in support of the 2080 concept for this learning loss money. I understand that the provisions say that there's some capital projects that can be done. I have looked into this, and I know that the monies can only be spent on facilities if they are Title I buildings only. Anything other than that, the money cannot be put there. And so I am asking the board that we allocate more than 20% of the learning loss funds to go to the children. And if we didn't have the children, we wouldn't be getting learning loss money. And so I understand that we could do retrofit things, and we could do air filtration in the buildings, okay? But we need to dedicate, by approval from the board, more than 20% of $43 million that we're going to get in our school district for the benefit of our students. The buildings didn't lose any learning. Our kids did. We just sat and heard from our student board member talking about mental health. Okay, we have things that we can expend those funds on that are going to benefit children, and that's what we should do. And I understand and respect the voice of Mrs. Polk. I know she does her job well. However, I am going to say that we, as the Board of Education, we need to step up and say, we're going to use more than 20% of $43 million for our students. Our students deserve more than 20% of $43 million in our school district. Thank you.
Ms. Leguizamo.
This question is related to the survey, and I don't know if we have enough time. When does the survey close again?
June the 25th.
Okay. Will there be a potential like Facebook Live to just kind of go over how to fill out the survey? I've had a few phone calls from parents that tried filling it out, and when you get to the chart part of it, it was a little confusing for them. Maybe just a small walkthrough or a small informational maybe to kind of get through that. I don't know if that is scheduled as part of this whole survey thing.
It isn't scheduled currently, but we could certainly work with Mr. Alajakis to make that happen.
Yeah, we noticed that when we opened the survey earlier today, there was a few glitches. I did speak with Mr. Alajakis a bit before this meeting, and they had been worked out. I was also getting a number of emails. However, that is a great idea, Mrs. Leguizamo, and we will look into that. I know Mr. Alajakis is right there, so he'll work with Ms. Pope to put something together.
Mr. McBride.
I agree with Ms. Hannah. I don't know, maybe it's the way it's being presented, but the way it's being presented, it just ain't adding up at all when you're saying 80% is going for infrastructure, so to speak, and then 20% is going towards children for their mental health to bring them back to normalcy. It just ain't adding up. I'm not saying, I don't know how you're able to divide that and what's going on, what the plan is for the future for our children, and what's all in place that the administrators got together to come up with the 20%. But again, even the babes understand the difference. I was listening to Ms. Hannah, this young man behind me, he talked about things that was needed to bring us back to normalcy, and he made a lot of sense. So it just ain't, I don't know, maybe it just ain't adding up. I think maybe we're missing something in terms of the proposal that's presented to us, and I don't want to undermine those that put the proposal together, but something is missing. It just ain't adding up. Maybe it's not. Maybe it needs to be some clarity as opposed to what's really going on here, because it ain't. It ain't adding up. That's the only thing I can say.
Okay, I would like to provide clarity if I may.
Can I jump in, Ms. Polk?
Yes.
So we had this conversation at Budget Workshop number 1. I'm going to speak just from my understanding, and Ms. Polk, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
The 28, what Ms. Polk is proposing and has proposed to the Board of Education is there were infrastructure projects that, one, needed to be done and directly impact students, because we're not talking about renovations to former First Macbeth building. We're not talking about renovations to Lincoln Center. We're talking about renovations to buildings in which students attend. The idea, and the board has already said that we want to invest in infrastructure. These funds allow us to take those one-time expenses and park those into that bucket. So what Ms. Polk is saying is, hey, if you were already going to spend this money, use the grant money in order to cover those funds, and then that frees up that additional money in the budget to be able to support student learning loss, right? So that's the proposal. I just don't want to create a narrative that that's not the thought or the rationale. If the board comes back and says, no, we want to see that worked out or mixed, Ms. Polk is perfectly okay with having that discussion. I just don't want what's put out into the community is that we're taking those funds and only spending them on fixing buildings, is because that's not the case. Is the idea, the rationale is to park the funds into what is a one-time expense, because Ms. Polk doesn't expect us to have this money next year. As I mentioned and I talked about, I'm probably more in line in let's pump the resources into the classrooms, and if it's staffing, they just have to be very honest about this is a 1 year, whatever it is. And what Ms. Polk is saying, doing this, or if we agree to that proposal, doesn't stop us from doing the other. So I just want to make sure that we level set so that everybody's on the same page as far as what's being recommended and what's being asked and how it impacts the community.
And it also doesn't mean that we're only putting 20% toward learning loss. It's the way that Ms. Polk is allocating money. We still have this other money we're going to allocate. She's just saying this money that we're getting, we're going to allocate this way. But there's another bucket of money that will also support the learning loss.
Absolutely.
All right, and that's what Mr. McBride was saying.
That's what I wanted to hear.
How it's communicated.
Yeah.
So I know that this was the presentation that Ms. Polk wanted to talk about the survey, and that the survey was out and received feedback. We will have a much more extensive conversation at our budget workshop number 2, which is tomorrow evening, where we'll again talk about, like you said, Mr. McBride, how we're utilizing our resources in order to address mental health, but also student academic loss, as Ms. Hannah's been talking about, is because that's what we're here for, and it's to educate children. So I just want to make sure that we're very clear about the proposal and what's being recommended, as well as what the options still are, and that we will have a much more in-depth conversation at tomorrow's budget workshop number 2.
Thank you very much.
Say this, that I understand as well, because I have also had conversation with Ms. Polk, because I needed to understand the proposal, and I do understand there's things that are on our life safety item list that needs to be done. I understand that, but I am still asking the board to equally divide that money up. More than 20% should go to our students and learning loss. It's kind of like, you know, I'm cognizant of the perception of the community, and they may not understand all of the internal movement of the funding. Okay, they may not understand that. All they're doing, it's the perception, and you know, if we're attempting to heal relations between the community and the school district. We need to be mindful of that.
And I think it's up to us to, if whatever we decide, because no decisions have made, to make sure that we explain why, the rationale, and say it over and over again until people understand.
Well, I hear you. I just want us, as the Board of Education, to say that our children are more important than 20%.
And they are, so
43.
but that's my thing, is I
43 million.
can't have that
Excuse
be
me,
the
sir.
narrative.
You're talking over me.
Yes,
and I
ma'am,
don't
because you
appreciate
had
that.
the opportunity, and because we're going to have much more discussion tomorrow. That's all, is that I don't want the narrative to be placed that the choice is between 20% to kids, because that is not telling the full story of the proposal. So I just continue to go back to, we can definitely have this conversation at the appropriate time tomorrow. Ms. Gonzalez, you had your hand up. I'll give you the final word, and then we will move on.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it clear. I'm a numbers person. I like math, and I'm sure Ms. Polk appreciates that too. 20% of $43 million is $8 to $9 million. Books only cost so much, right? Our buildings and every aspect of them costs a little bit more. So we're just taking extra money that we're getting from the district, putting it in that bucket to get things going, you know, addressing things that even teachers and staff, our paras, security guards had concerns about, right? Air filtration has to do with COVID. And everything else that we were expending as a district to go to the buildings is now being freed up to do everything else that we want to do as a board. So I think it is the presentation. I think what Ms. Hannah is saying is that's important to reinforce. But I just don't want the back and forth to like convolute what that means right now, numbers wise, and why it's being presented that way. It's just it's an accounting thing. And that was going to be my final thing.
Thank you. And once again, this is not the budget presentation. This was just letting the community as well as the board know that that ESSA survey was out. So I think there are a lot of people who would agree with Ms. Hannah as well as what other people on the board have stated. So as the Board of Education, I also think it's our responsibility to make sure that we are promoting the survey, letting people know about it, and making sure that we get good feedback so that if the plan needs to be tweaked or adjusted, we also know what the community is saying.
And so the survey is being sent out to the community, or are we sending it out to students' homes that are enrolled in our schools? Because I think that all taxpayers in the school district boundaries should have say so in this.
The survey is currently posted on the district's website, and a mass email went out by Mr. Alajakis to everyone. And so if there's additional communication that we need to do, we're willing to do that. We had plans of posting it in the newspaper in addition to posting it on our website.
It's also on Facebook. It's also on Facebook.
He also put it on Facebook.
Well, hopefully we get a good number, a good representation out of the community.
When I looked earlier, there were about 77 responses already within a 2-hour period.
Well, that's good.
So I'll say at the end, going to justify the means, because right now we're talking about money, but once again, the structure of what the money is going to be used for. Sometimes, I hate to say it, but sometimes you can, when Obama did grassroots, he didn't have nothing, but he still was able to overcome the issues that he had to deal with, didn't have a lot of money. So I'm interested, for me, as to what direction the administrators is going to deal with our children to bring them out of what we call the soaring norm back to normal again. That's what's important to me, because sometimes money ain't always the key. It's what you do with the money and what you bring together to solve the issue for the money from the beginning anyway. So that's where I'm at. But I'm glad that Brandon, you kind of explained, but I think tomorrow at the budget meeting, the public will be able to see the real picture, because right now we talk about 2080, but it's more to it than that, when you look at the inside of it.
Yes, it's very important that I use the terminology from the legislation, which is 20% and 80%, and then we could further explain, as we did at Budget Workshop 1, what our intentions are and why we're proposing what we're proposing. But it is a 20-80% split.
Does the legislation, Mrs. Polk, say minimal? And that's the key. It says a minimum. It does not have to be that 20%. It could be above 20% if the Board of Education so wants it to be.
That is correct. But I want to be consistent in the terminology that I'm using, which is that 80-20. And so I could clearly articulate what our proposal is to the board and the community so that you understand. And our board president explained it well as we presented it at Budget Workshop 1.
Thank you. And I think to Ms. Polk's credit, they did take the feedback from the last workshop, and there will be a presentation to make sure that people clearly understand where funds are going and where resources are being placed and the intentionality in which they're being placed. So thank you, Ms. Polk, and I look forward to tomorrow's presentation. Item 15E is President's Report. It'll be brief, so I'm going to just state 3 very quick things. The board has asked me to, 1, try and make sure that our board is operating more efficiently and effectively. It's also asked me that our meetings are run more efficiently and effectively. Primarily, the length of the meetings has been an issue, not because people don't want to be here, not because we're not committed, but because generally the public loses interest after 2, 3, 4 hours of communication, and we also become less effective as far as what is the will of the board, where are we going. So as Mr. McBride said, we sit around and we talk a lot, but what are we actually doing, right? And so one of the things that I want to implement, which we received in our board evaluation, was our board meeting monitor form. So at the end of this meeting, I will ask that all of the board please just very quickly at the end of the meeting fill out the form and then turn those into me so that we can start to track the effectiveness of our meetings, what area we need to improve, and how we do that. The other thing I want to talk about is making sure that we are operating in our board role by setting the ends and the vision for the district. So there will be a lot of information about where we want to go, rebuilding trust, as Ms. Hannah talked about, with the community, as well as with one another. And so that will be the focus over the next couple months. I did try and get a part 2 of our board evaluation in June, but unfortunately our IASB rep was booked. So Board of Education, I will ask if you do have vacation plans for July, just send them to me so I can try and pick a date that will work with everybody, because it's important that we all be there. But I also want to respect the fact that we had agreed to no meetings in July, but there's work that we need to do as a board so that we are prepared for day 1 when our students return. And so that concludes my board president's report. And I look forward to the discussion tomorrow during our budget workshop number 2. There are no information items, so we are going to go down to old business. There is no old business listed. You got old business? Go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
I want to preference my old business by, I looked back in my paperwork, and I found out that we had purchased an app for Infinite Campus to monitor students' progress, their classes, their grades, and their transcripts. And with that, I want to know, the old business is, I had, in one of the meetings prior, I had asked if we were going to hear from the high school leaders why we had to take the drastic measure of decreasing credit requirements for our students, our seniors, but I haven't heard anything. And this just, as I was looking, we purchased the app for the high school to be able to track students' progress. And I want to know, one of my questions includes, why wasn't this process used in order to track our students? And I understand COVID and remote learning and all of that, but with technology, it could have been done anywhere. And so I'm still looking to get that answered. Why did we purchase this app for Infinite Campus, but apparently it wasn't used to monitor our students? So hopefully at a future meeting, we could get that answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
I have two items. One item, I was looking to see if does legal have an update for us on the bid from the previous board meeting for the copiers and printers.
He will provide it during legal report.
Okay. I'm sorry, say that again, Board President.
Mr. Morris will be providing information on that during legal report.
Oh, okay, got it. Second item, it's old but new. So we have all of the COVID policies in place. And as we know, the state is looking to reopen. I'm looking to see about where and what we're going to do with some of the policies. I know there's definitely a conversation that we had previously that once when our area starts opening up fully, that we are no longer able to take temperatures. So I know that will be happening really shortly, and just like to understand where we are with updating policies and how all that is going to shift as we start to open up. So it's old and new.
And if I can add on to your statement, Ms. Leguizamo, as well as rescinding the resolutions that we had approved during the COVID. Those need to be rescinded as well once we open back up.
Thank you, Ms. Vanderbroek and Mr. Morris. At our upcoming board meeting, if we want to just report to the board on where we stand on those. Thank you. And I do, as kudos to our legal team. They have been monitoring this situation closely. Even some of the times when we ask, like Mr. Riddle, not to put him on the spot, but do we have to wear masks? They're looking at what is ISB guidelines saying, what does the state law still say, what does the CDC say, what does our own policies say, and then we're making decisions kind of in real time as it relates to those things, and they're constantly changing and have been during the entire pandemic. So they are on top of it, Ms. Leguizamo, which is why I feel confident that they can present, but it is a very fluid situation. So where we are today may not be where we are in 2 weeks and vice versa. So thank you for that. Any other old business items? All right, so we are now at new business. Item 18A is the IASB resolution for the science of reading. The recommended action reads, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the resolution as presented and directs the superintendent to forward it to IASB prior to the submission deadline of June 23rd, 2021. Motion by Mr. Riddle.
Second.
Second by Mr. McBride. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Yes, I would like to just say, and hopefully I'm not premature, but I just want to say that this work that I put into this resolution, not only will it help students, okay, and not just students here in Waukegan, but it will help students all over the state of Illinois, and we'll get a benefit out of that if during the resolution committee at IASB, if it's approved there and it goes to legislation and it becomes a law about using the science of reading. And I'm hoping that each of you received the resolution and everything, and I hope that you all read it. And there are there's definite science that shows that all students that does not get taught with phonics, they struggle with reading for a lifetime. And it's sad that the narratives that has been put out there in terms of children and reading, it says that children from low-income poverty areas are affected by the low reading, right? But through my research, and I found that it is not only those students from low-income homes and poverty, but there are the students struggle in high-income, two-parent, college-educated homes as well with their reading. And the data is right there. And the data has been the data for a long time that we are not teaching children how to read. We're not teaching them how to read. And the theory of reading versus the science of reading, it's two different things. And at this point, the theory of reading hasn't worked because we are still producing a lot of illiteracy in our country, okay? And so with our children, and so I'm just glad that we're going to take this endeavor on, and I have had support from district administrators, teachers, throughout the community. And when we could show that, it makes the chances much better that the IASB Resolution Committee will accept this. And in November at the III, during delegates during the delegates assembly, we will be voting on this. But with it being sent to IASB, we will have feedback. We will get feedback on the resolution that is submitted. And so I just want to thank you all in advance.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Board President, thank you for that. So thank you, Ms. Hannah, for presenting this resolution. It is important work. I think that this is something that a lot of us as board members do agree that reading is very important. However, I would like to ask the board for us to hold over on voting on this resolution as it is today. There is a lot of structure that I think needs to be fine-tuned in this resolution. And I'd just like to make sure that we're presenting a unified structure in regards to this. And this is more as it relates to the attachment, which is the rationale piece of it. And there are some subjective comments in here, and I'd like to understand if the board is on board with providing some subjective wording on this, or do we want to stick with the objective or the hard data that goes along with this rationale? And so I know that this resolution is going to present or represent us as Waukegan as a whole, and so I'd like to make sure that we are putting together a quality product.
And thank you for that, Ms. Leguizamo. I have had Dr. Brown. I have had him to proofread it, to give me feedback on it for revisions, and I'm looking at Superintendent. Can I ask him to come up?
Of course you can, Ms. Hannah.
Dr. Brown, Dr. Kevin Brown, can you,
That's up to Dr. Brown if he would like to come up. I know he's put on the spot.
no, he's not being put on the spot. We talked about
I know this is very passionate work from Dr. Brown as well, so appreciate a lot of the work that you put into it.
My question, sir, is that
First of all, good evening to everyone, to President Ewing, to Superintendent, colleagues, and community. Yes, Ms. Hannah.
you reviewed my paper as I asked, and you gave me feedback, and Ms. Leguizamo is asking for the paper to be, the resolution to be held over, and because there's some subjective, I'm not sure, but can you
Well, I would
give
just ask her to speak to the situation that she's speaking of.
Yeah, so the first thing, the structure piece of it, the in-text citation is incorrectly done,
Okay.
as well as the footnoting of it on a
Okay.
business structure and a proposal. It is done incorrectly. It's usually at the footnotes versus at the end of the page. Also, once again, just the in-text citation was one of the major things that I saw. That was the structure piece of it. And then,
So when you're speaking whether or not the paper is written in MLA or APA,
yeah.
right? So you want to decide on which format to use for presenting
Okay,
And I don't know if you chose
No, and I
MLA
didn't.
or APA.
right, and it was a little bit of both.
Okay.
And the reason that it was done like that, Ms. Leguizamo, is because what comes from the district will be looked at, okay? They know that, I mean, we're not the only district that presents resolutions, okay? And they're going to be the one that formulates the resolution that is going to be presented to the delegates and to the legislatures. We just started the process, and they are going to finish up. They're going to go in and that's what I say, they're going to give us feedback and everything. And they're going to, if they see something that is, that's out of order or whatever, they're going to fix it. They just want it submitted.
And so to your point in regards to the process of this, right? When they look at this and they provide us feedback, at that time, would they have that time to reject our proposal, or do they always accept all proposals and put it forth in front of all the delegates?
The committee, it's up to the committee, the resolution committee. I have no clue, okay? All I am doing, okay, is submitting the proposal.
Mm-hmm.
They were excited when I first brought this to them. They were excited to see what we were going to present to them.
Right. And so I thank you for that, right? But so I know everyone has had the time to read through this, right? And I know there's still just very few minor typos, very few minor grammatical structures that just need to be refixed, retweaked a little. Some key words in here probably need to be either emphasized or smoothed out, right? There's just some things that I just was wondering, once again, the way that it's presented, and I can have a more one-on-one conversation with the team. I'd like to really dive deep into the molecular level of the structure of this piece.
We really don't have that, the luxury of that time, Ms. Leguizamo.
Okay.
Because we do have a deadline.
And that is the 25th of June, right?
No, it's the 23rd of June. And the reason why I am trying to expedite this is so that we will have time. They will look at it, and then they will give us feedback before the deadline. If there's something that needs to be changed, added, deleted, then they will have time to give us the feedback.
So then our due date is not the 23rd then?
It's the 23rd.
The final, so to be clear, the last day for submissions is the 23rd. If you give it to them on the 23rd, what I'm understanding from Ms. Hannah, you'll have no time to make corrections. And then to your point, Ms. Leguizamo, if it died, even if it's a good idea, due to something that they didn't like, we didn't have the opportunity to tweak it and change it and submit something. So what Ms. Hannah is proposing, that we send our rough draft, our draft of the proposal, allow them to give feedback, and that would give us time, hopefully, to review at our meeting on the 22nd so that we would meet the 23rd deadline.
Absolutely.
And we are okay with the structure?
There's a motion and a second.
And I know there's a hand over there, so I'll allow.
I see two hands, so I'm just, the question was, are we okay with the structure? So what I'm saying is there's a motion and a second, so right now we're debating the item. I don't know, we'll go and hear from the other board members about holding it over, but as Ms. Hannah said, I think time is of the essence, and she's really, really interested and ready to move it forward at tonight's meeting. Go ahead, Ms. McBride, and then Ms. Wozniak.
Only thing I can say is it was your dream, and I respect your dream, and if it needs to be fine-tuned, whatever fine-tuned that Mrs. Lamazamo has, to make it a little bit more appealing. I think that there's time to do that, but at the same time, trying to redraft the whole resolution, I don't think it's necessary. I just think that if she said some typos, it's no more than our minutes. If it's some typos, that's easy to correct, and that can be done overnight. So
I will be willing to look at the typos as it relates to the framework or the structure. I was not honing in on whether or not it was APA or MLA. What I did focus on was the literature itself, is the text as relates to the science of reading. And from my opinion, or from the facts or the research, it shows that what is outlined in the text supports the science of reading. But looking at the structure, I think it's appropriate, MLA or APA, to decide, as well as make corrections to the typographical errors that you may see.
Sorry, maybe we can just, I think, go with the motion to approve this, right? However, do a quick spell check and get those spell checks in there. We could also, if the spell check, some of them are going to grab some of it.
So, and I'll be honest, the thing that I'm struggling with, Tom, and so I asked the question, is the procedural concern, is that the agenda item has been posted, it's been reviewed. And so if we are then saying that we want to make substantive changes, should we, right, be bringing it back before the public?
Yes, I think if you're going to make substantive changes to it, I didn't hear Ms. Leguizamo say that she was making substantive changes. I can't imagine in what it sounds like a preliminary document that the footnote methodology is critical to the outcome. I think they need to get the idea in front of them and wordsmith it. So, I mean, we could talk to Ms. Leguizamo, make some changes, get them in later, but I think the key thing is to not miss the deadline. So, because if the door closes, as Mrs. Hannah says, on the 23rd, it will come too late. So, unless you want to have a special meeting before student achievement, which seems,
I mean, I think we're going to pass this, regardless. I think, the idea of this, the context of this is going to be, I'm a yes for this, right? I'm sorry, and I know I'm taking a lot of the mic time, and Ms. Wozniak had her hand up, just to get that feedback on the floor.
Ms. Wozniak?
I too agree with Lucy that there's some formatting issues that need to be addressed. There's footnotes that aren't being identified in the within the structure of the writing. I also feel that it'd be much more impactful if we as a district implemented this for a couple years and showed our own stats of how well phonics is working for us and that we make great strides using phonics here.
I hear what you're saying, but that's not the purpose of the resolution. We don't do full-fledged phonics in Waukegan. That it's not here in Waukegan.
Well, I think if we are supporting this, we should emulate that and do that and show your theory that phonics is the way to go.
Well, the science proves that.
So,
Dr. Brown?
And that's kind of the question, and I'm sorry, Dr. Brown, for this evening, is, and as the superintendent has stated, is that this resolution is board work, right? And so I get Ms. Wozniak's point, I get Ms. Leguizamo's point, but I think there is division, obviously, between methodology and ideology as it relates to the science of reading. And so I think that the board is supporting this resolution to go for advocacy to the IASB, and then as Ms. Hannah stated, if a majority of delegates agree with it, then they would push it at the state level, and if a state representative and state senator picked it up and sponsored it, and a majority passed the House and the Senate, then what we would be saying is that that is the agreement. But right now, I think planting a definitive flag or saying that this is the only way or no way is, I don't necessarily know if that's the argument that we want to have amongst the board tonight. So what's being presented is the resolution. We do have a first and a second. Ms. Leguizamo has requested that we hold the item over. I don't know, Ms. Wozniak also is requesting that we hold the item over. I don't know if anybody wants to withdraw their first and the second. Personally, I would like us to proceed, and I will be supporting the resolution as presented. But that is, I guess I will allow those who presented the first and the second to either move forward or to withdraw their first and the second. Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo.
Board President, so, I mean, the thing is that we have a deadline, right? I'm going to vote yes for it regardless, because the context of it, the idea of it, it's what, you know, I definitely think that we should be proposing to our legislation, right? I only just have a problem with the structure piece of it. So I'm okay to remove my motion off the board to hold it over so that we can meet the deadline. We're going to vote yes anyways. Let's vote, let's put it on the floor to vote. But, you know, I know it's been a long time since our school district has written a resolution. I would have liked it to have been a different type of quality that we presented to our delegates at IASB, because it is a representation of our community and our board and our school district. So I'm just going to say that at that and remove my motion to hold it over. Thank you, Board President.
And Ms. Leguizamo, let me assure you that the IASB just wants the resolution, and they are going to formulate the structure based on what is submitted to them. They're going to do all of that. Okay, and that's one of the things that kind of gave me in doing this, okay, because I worked tirelessly on this thing for the last few months, okay, and I only, I took the webinar about resolution writing, okay, and so I understand what you're saying, okay, I'm not a scholarly nothing, okay, but it's what's contained, and they will fix the structure and the footnotes and all that stuff.
And Ms. Hannah, do you by chance know that once when we submit the draft, they come back with their edits? Does that come back to us as a board to reapprove the updated edits, or does that just continues to go through the rest of the process as is without board?
No, it's going to come back, and right now, I am the contact person, okay, and with emails, but if whatever I get, I'm going to forward to the board president, and, you know, of course, he can forward it to you all. But you all will know at every step what's going on.
Thank you for that. Those were all my questions and concerns, Board President.
Thank you, Ms. Leguizamo. Mr. Riddle?
Call the question. I think this issue's been debated enough, and this reading is the most important thing that we teach our children.
Yes.
That's how they gain knowledge. This is a controversial issue. Yes, it is. Some people don't go with phonics, but what it's going to do is it's going to cause all of our delegates down there at the convention to think and how they're going to vote on this issue, and they will get involved in it. It isn't become law. It's simply a resolution that the IASB boards, that they look at, and that we as members look at as board members. We're not experts in the field. We're just saying this is very important. So I fully support this. I think I'm calling the question.
All right, so the question has been called, Needs a majority to pass, or a majority, but that's fine. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad Wozniak? Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes. Item approved. Motion carries. All right. I'm going to skip down to legal reports. 21A, we have the 2020-2021 FOIA report. Mr. Morris.
The report was appended to the agenda, and of course you've probably all seen it and read it. I just hit the highlights of what occurred over the last year. We are current as of this date with respect to all requests and responses. Just some highlights. As compared to last year, you can see there was a significant reduction. About half of the FOIA requests were received this year as compared to last year. Part of that was a significant reduction in the number of news outlets that were requesting information and reporters that used FOIA as their investigation tool. We had several requests. About a third of the requests came from members of the community, just a small group of people in the community. Other requests came in from community members, but usually only one request in the year. Topics of interest really related to things pertaining to chiefly the administration, things like travel expenses, convention expenses, salaries, expenditures, close scrutiny by the community on spending and charge cards and things of that nature. So our community members are being vigilant and using the system to make sure that no excess occurs or any questionable items or odd items that stand out are scrutinized carefully. The trend continues by plaintiffs' lawyers to use our system to do research or to gain access to videotape and things of that nature as they do their analysis of whether or not they accept cases. We've had a lot of activity by unions, or related to unions, both sides of the question. Many advocacy groups want to find out more about union dues and who's in unions and who isn't in unions. And on the other hand, unions are looking at where we are contracting and who's receiving awards so that they can do checks on prevailing wages, as well as scrutiny on how we procure items or trying to increase activity and interest in our purchasing of goods and services, particularly in the areas of food and transportation. So I think the report speaks for itself. I'd be glad to answer any specific questions. But I wanted to just give a high-level report on activity so you know generally what is of interest in the community. I also added a couple of notes responsive to some public comments which we've received in the past about, one, the issue of the school code provision that encourages the board to take up the question and receive a report each meeting on FOIA requests. Now that language, in my legal judgment, is not mandatory, despite the word should, because there is no consequence for not doing it. And it's my understanding that you've tried to keep these business meetings tight and try and keep them on time in order to get through the work and the actions that are actually required. So if you wish us to have a FOIA report each meeting, that can be done, but it's often going to be pretty mundane. The other question is, and so the question is whether or not that's an efficient use of your time. I believe you have discretion as to whether or not you want to have it. And the other part has to do with posting on the internet. Well, that's usually these things are requested are in a digital format. So we already have the documents screened electronically, and it's really no big deal for us to upload it. Our paralegal has been compiling all of the responses for this year, and we're just waiting for IT to give us the key, so to speak, to get them uploaded. So I would expect in the fairly near future you'll see all of that available for review. I don't know how much benefit the public will get from that, because typically these requests are customized by the individual interest of the requester and set up with respect to certain time periods or certain subjects or certain details that may not be of general interest. But we have no reason to withhold dissemination of the information. It's just a matter of the logistics of making it happen. If there's no questions on FOIA, I'll move on. I wanted to cover a couple of other things. There was a question from Ms. Wozniak about the Yeoman Solar, which really is not a closed session type subject, because the litigation is essentially over. And just to kind of review very quickly what's happened, you probably are all frustrated because nothing seems to be happening. BQ Energy is still authorized to proceed with the development of the solar field, but before COVID, they decided that they wanted to enhance the tax advantages of the whole project by having the area of Yeoman qualified as part of the enterprise zone that is in existence in this area. And some speed bumps happened along the way as that was implemented. In the course of processing that, there were delays because of difficulties in the legal descriptions that were incorporated by BQ and others. And so these irregularities were picked up by the city administration and caused the project to stall. As well, there were difficulties in getting the administration to go, at that point, the prior administration to go forward with it. Eventually that was resolved, and then we had the election. The election has caused a change in council, so the new council has to get up to speed on the whole process, and that hasn't quite happened yet. We don't expect any significant opposition. The city administration is working to move the matter forward. And in other respects, BQ is showing a significant commitment to the development of the project. They did obtain, they are working with ComEd on the design of the interconnection system. They've expended about $850,000 with ComEd to make that happen. So the project was adversely affected by COVID in terms of things like marketing, development of demand information and things of that nature. So there's been a lot of impediments, but it's still proceeding, Ms. Wozniak. And we do expect certainly the effort with ComEd to be finalized in November or December that will help with the engineering. The city is optimistic that in July they'll be able to move the enterprise zone piece forward. BQ is reevaluating as to whether or not they even need that at this point. So I would expect in the latter half of this year you're going to begin to see more than you have over the last, I'd say, year and a half. Are there any questions on Yeoman Solar? Last meeting, we had an issue that arose where I was asked to answer some questions on the fly about a copier purchase. And I want to just review that quickly. We talked about a bid. It turns out it really wasn't a bid. It was a request for proposal process that we used. So there are exceptions in the contract section of the school code that allow public bodies to purchase equipment of this sort through a negotiated process. You may recall that Ms. Leguizamo spoke about best and final offers, and there were questions about the staleness of the quotes which we had received from the vendors, I guess back in 2019. The IT department that was leading this activity had revalidated the prices with the apparent low offeror, but had not revalidated anything technically or price-wise with other vendors that were competitive offerors and were in the running and whose proposals had not been rejected. So I got into this the following week and kind of looked it all over. Mr. Trembino and Cannon, two of the offerors, had submitted some information relative to the status of the matter, and we looked at all of those, I'll call them protests, although they really weren't technically protests, but questions and concerns that these offerors raised. And I sat down with our team and went through it all, and basically I felt that in fairness to all of the offerors, we needed to go back and give them another opportunity to look at their technical proposals, because in some cases the equipment that was available in 2019 is either not available now, or maybe there may be new and improved products that might affect pricing. And so I felt that if we gave the chance to one, we should give the chance to all. And so we issued an amendment to extend the time for vendors to reassess the validity, the continuing validity of their technical proposal, to make any modifications and to reaffirm their pricing. So we anticipate that the vendors, we hope all of them will respond. The deadline for responses is tomorrow at 2 p.m. And we'll then go into an evaluation phase, and we'll see where we are. Dr. Cuevas has affirmed to me that if we stay on track and continue to press this forward, it will still be possible for us to complete this acquisition in time for implementation. So while we've suffered a little bit of a delay, it's not harmful. And at the end of the day, I think it is the fairest thing to do for all the people who expended the time, energy, and expense to develop a responsive offer in connection with their original solicitation. So no decisions are made, and I'm not going to disclose anything about the particulars of the evaluation process, because that would be premature and might give someone a competitive advantage. So that's just the status report on where we are. I expect we'll be back to you shortly with some positive recommendation for action. Are there any questions about that? Lastly, I'm advised by Ms. Vanderbroek that to assure you and the board members about our continuing monitoring of policies and resolutions. Many of these resolutions were set up so that they went away. They were rescinded effectively on their own terms based on the occurrence of certain events, such as changes in gubernatorial resolution or proclamations and things of that nature. So we're continuing to watch all that. She is, in particular, more than I am. But she's, I won't say what how stressful it is to keep track of all the issues about whether it's 6 feet or 3 feet, and whether you wear masks or don't wear masks, and all those details. But she's on top of all of it. Some of the changes, a policy suspension summary has been created by her and is posted on the website page, so that that should show everyone the current status of how the original resolutions have been altered or rescinded or are no longer in effect. But we will supplement this offhand comment I'm making right now with a fuller report for you at our next meeting. Hope that assures you that we're not, there never was an intention to take authority away from the Board of Education in any of these matters. It's simply a response to an emergency to make sure that we could continue to do the best we could to run the district, to keep it running under unknown circumstances. And we are trying to get back to the correct and normal way of operations just as soon as we can. Are there any questions? Then that concludes the legal report.
Thank you for that, Mr. Morris. I would now like us to go into board member time. I'll start with Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Board President. I just wanted to say Happy June, Happy Pride Month to all our students, staff. I'm really happy that summer is coming through, and the Parks District, all of our different community entities are doing different programming. I think it's going to be really beneficial for our kids to be out, cousins, nieces, etc. So get them out, drink lots of water. And I just wanted to say a special congratulations to some of our students in the district that won the Congressional Art Competition, Kimberly Lagunas, and I'm forgetting the name of the other student. But I was really impressed. I'm always impressed by the work that our students do. I was an art student myself, and the content of their work was really inspiring, about Black Lives Matter, about deportations, things that really affect our students in our community here. So kudos to them. And Amy Frankel, who is our AP art teacher, I learned from her a lot. So I appreciate our teachers who, help our students become their best expressive selves and to learn that technical work. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Ms. Wozniak?
As the member of the Waukegan Parks Foundation, I'm excited to announce that we are planning on continuing our second grade all school swimming program, and we were going to make up for the ones that were, so I guess it's the fourth graders that missed when COVID hit. There's a couple schools that missed, and then all the third graders and all the second graders. We're hoping to hit all of them this year. So I'm excited for that, and I hope we can make the schedule work. So looking forward to that.
Thank you, Ms. Wozniak. Mr. McBride?
I just want to ask the board to be conscious and aware of what's going on around us. We just had 55 young people got shot. And out of the 55, 18 died. And it's moving towards our direction. As you know, we just had one shot in Bowen Park, and prior to that, we just had a funeral at my church for an 18-year-old. That kid went to AEOC. But it's moving towards our direction. So when we start talking about equity, these are some of the things that be in the back of my mind. So I want you to be conscious of that and stay prayerful that when we start talking about doing things to help children in terms of keeping them out of harm's way, please do that.
Thank you, Ms. McBride. Ms. Hannah?
Just want to, one question. I only have one question. When are we going back to Lincoln Center for our meetings? And that's just a question that I'm looking for an answer for. But are we, I can't remember if we are members in the National School Board Association. Are we?
We were. I'll have to confirm our current status, but a year ago, 2019, we would have been a part of NSBA. And as long as we paid our dues, we are currently a member of NSBA.
Right, and that's what because I came across this and I just thought to ask. Also, going through things, I was amazed at the D60 News, and I found one from February 2020. And it has our new student board member at that time was Van Whittle. And I'm just wondering, we got good information in here, and I'm just, are we continuing to do this, Superintendent?
Do you want me to answer that?
If you can.
The D60 News.
That is something that we will pick up the following school year. We did not
Okay.
do it this year due to COVID.
Okay, very good. And other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Ms. Leguizamo?
Thank you, Board President. I just wanted to welcome the students back to their summer programs, whether that is summer school or athletic camps. If you're looking to join an athletic camp, you can go on the website, which is 8-18 Waukegan. If you Google that, it will come up with all of the athletic camps over the summer. So that's a great thing. I also want to remind the public, please tune in tomorrow for workshop number 2 on our budget committee meeting. This is a lot of the work that we do about where to put money in our education system. So that will be at 7 p.m. tomorrow, and that is June 9th.
6 p.m.
Sorry, 6 p.m. I'm already starting late. And no, I won't be late. Last, I just wanted to make a comment that our city in the last weekend hosted an amazing event, the Pride Walk, and it was a great event. It was well attended. What I'd like to see is hopefully next year the school district will play a role in that citywide event, as well as other citywide events that are upcoming. So we know that there's a Juneteenth event that's coming up in our town, and even our 4th of July events. So I'd like to see us more at our community events, just kind of putting that out there as a comment/statement. So thank you for that.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes, I'd like to thank everyone who attended either virtually or in person tonight. Thank our board members. I think we did a pretty good job of getting this meeting done before 9 o'clock, so we're working on that.
I haven't started talking yet, Mr. Riddle.
We're trying to get business done in an efficient manner. I think I second everything I heard from our board members here. They're involved in the community as all of us are, and we certainly hope that you have a great summer and enjoy that summer and get ready for the fall, because it's going to be really exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Usani?
I just wanted to say thank you to, of course, giving me the voice. I know that hopefully I will help a lot of students and make an impact. And I do know, if I'm not mistaken, that Illinois is opening up to stage 5 or phase 5, I believe, if they haven't already. So I'm hoping that next school year will be fully in person, or at least hybrid, if not in person fully. And I can't wait for next school year. Firstly, my senior year, which I am excited for. But yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. And so just very quickly, there's a vaccine clinic on the 26th. Just want to remind and know that the district will play an instrumental role in ensuring that our community is vaccinated. I also want to invite the community out to the Juneteenth celebration. It's a free event for the entire family. It's Saturday, June 19th. As a reminder, this is the first year that Juneteenth is an official district holiday, so that's exciting. The way that they'll do it this year is between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. There'll be multiple sites throughout the city where you can go and visit. These are historical landmarks, in which our school will be one of them, as well as different places throughout Waukegan. And the event will culminate with an event at the Fuller Center in downtown Waukegan from 3 to 6 p.m., where the district will be participating. We also are sponsoring by assisting with buses to shuttle people around. So we are involved and want to continue our involvement with our FACE department, but also other administrators so that the community can see them and know that we're part of it. So thank you, Ms. Leguizamo. And to my Board of Education, thank you all for everything that you do, as well as the community. It is a lot of times a thankless job, and I know each and every single one of you give 110% to the role. And so I appreciate that and your efforts. I know that May and June have been, this last year has been crazy, but I'm excited that we are toward the end of it and look forward to working with our administration and our staff and our teachers who've been working so hard in order to welcome our students back in person. IASB passed a resolution that they would expect that every effort is made for full in-person education next year. I don't want to speak for the superintendent, but I know that that is something that we are committed to, which is a return to normalcy. And so we as a board, echoing Ms. Hannah, have to ensure that the resources are put where they are needed in order to address our students' return. So with that, I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Riddle, so moved.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Mr. McBride. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.